All right, people of the internet. So I was getting geared up and getting ready to go geocaching. There's an 80-point run that I'm going to be doing. It is part of a Wherigo geocache, but it also involves not just the Wherigo cartridge, but also there's physical caches that you go in and sign. So an 80-point run is kind of a big deal. So I was getting geared up and kind of going over some of my equipment. I thought, you know, that would actually be a fairly decent thing to make a video on. Basically, I just kind of wanted to go over some of the things that I tend to make sure, especially when I'm going out on a long run or going out and grabbing multiple caches. So I'm going to start at kind of the most basic and work my way, you know, forward from there. So a lot of times, people are really, you know, they're just caching with their phones. They got a phone and they got a pen, and realistically, that's about all it is that you need to go geocaching: a phone and a pen. That's going to get you your most basic caches there, and realistically, you don't need a whole lot else. Although you're going to be running into, and as you get more into this hobby, you're going to kind of want to be updating your game there a little bit. You're going to be running into caches that have a little bit, you know, higher difficulty rating. So another basic tool is your handheld GPS unit. Right now I'm going with the Garmin eTrex 20X. It's a decent little handheld unit. I got it connected up with a cord and a carabiner. That way I can just kind of slap it onto my belt and run through the woods, no worries. Another thing that you're going to want to be bringing is batteries. Man, these things, for what it is that they do, they don't take up a whole lot of power, but man, when you're out in the field and you're actually using that thing all the time, it does take up some power. So the main things that I'm going to have with me at all times is going to be the phone, the pen, the batteries, and the Garmin. Those are really probably the most frequently used things. Next thing that I'm also going to recommend is getting yourself a multi-tool, and the multi-tool is good for a number of different things. You've got lots of different, you know, kind of tools built into that. One of the things that you're probably going to notice that you use the most is going to be the needle nose pliers and probably the flathead screwdriver. Makes for really good, easy prying, grabbing, things like that. So I'll just kind of toss these over here. The main things that you use: the batteries, the pens, the GPS unit, and this. I mean, that really fits everything into your pocket. No biggie. The next thing that I do tend to take along is my GoPro and a spare battery for that. I like to record the things that it is that I do, and geocaching, it's going to get you into places that you don't normally go to, things that you don't normally see. And so I usually carry around my GoPro and a spare battery. Another thing that I take that I think is probably some fairly basic equipment there is a flashlight. Now, right now, that is a cheap little flashlight. It uses AAA batteries. I also have a little mini mag light that takes AA's. And the reason that I go with the mini mag light is because when I get done, when I burn through a pair of batteries on this Garmin, still got a little bit of juice left. I can keep those aside for that, light things up. So it's good reusing of the batteries there. Now on to some other things that you may or may not use. I don't use these very often. As a matter of fact, I think I probably only used these maybe a handful of times in the last 5 years. But a mirror on an extended pole here. It telescopes out. That's really good for getting into things that you can't see. You know, looking down into things, tubes, underneath rocks, logs, things like that you don't necessarily want to be sticking your face under. You can just kind of pull this out, flip it down there, flip it up there, whatever, and you can see what's in there. Another thing that I use for some hard to reach, you know, finds, a telescoping magnet. Now, this thing has probably come in handy way more than the mirror has. Sometimes what can happen is, you know, a cache gets disconnected, falls down a tube. Well, this thing telescopes out. You just reach out to it, pick it up, pull it out, you can reconnect it, do whatever it is that you need to do. It's not really something that you're going to use very often, but man, I tell you what, having it in your toolbox or in your bag is just handy for when you do need it, because who wants to go in and find a cache and see it and be so close but not be able to pull it out and sign it? So that's why I got that magnet. Another thing that I got is this little Grabby tool. Now, this is something that you can pick up at an automotive store, and it's got these little claw type things at the end of it. Don't know how well you can see it. And let's just reach out and grab something here. Yeah, it's got these little claws at the end. You just depress the little mechanism, it pushes out those claws. When you pull it back, it's on a spring, and it closes around. Now, this works really, really well, again, if you need to pick something up that's fallen down like a tube, you just don't have the arm stretch for it. This thing works really, really well. And it is flexible, so it bends to, you know, whatever shape it is that you need. And I've used it, I probably used it more than the mirror, at least as much as the magnet. Another thing that I grab, and I should probably throw this over to your basic tools, but that's just gloves. A good set of gloves, because you're going to be moving around rocks, you're going to be jumping into thorn bushes, you're going to be, you know, picking up logs and things like that, reaching down into holes. And I tell you what, having a set of gloves it's good for your hands. Your hands will thank you. One of the next things that I also take, and I should probably just put that under, you know, useful tools or things that you should always take with you, is just a basic first aid kit. Again, you're going to be jumping into thorn bushes. You're going to be lifting up rocks, blazing a trail through the brush. It's nice to be able to toss a Band-Aid onto a scratch or a cut. Make sure that you're, you know, keeping yourself healthy. Now, the next thing that I take is for cache maintenance. I take a couple of these little snack-sized Ziploc bags. A lot of times people will put their logs into the little Ziploc bags to keep them free of moisture. And those things break down over time. So I take along, you know, 7, 8, 10 of those. Another thing that I also take is these little Camel Snus tins. These things are great. Geocache containers are a lot of times plastic. They can get brittle, they can get worn out, they get snapped or broken. You know, things can get bent up. These things being, you know, I don't know if they're tin or probably aluminum. Those things can take a beating, and they're nice, they're easy, good to use. And then the next thing, a bag. I got this bag here. It's just an over-the-shoulder kind of a merce, if you will. But I just kind of pack everything up, and it's got a lot of pockets. I can pack everything I need into it. Usually I also have a couple of snacks in there. Yeah, I can pack everything I need into this bag. I keep it well organized with all these pockets, and I don't ever need to worry about it. I just toss it into my truck, and I call it a day. Leave that in there. Of course, not my GPS unit or my phone or my camera, but, you know, all these tools, I mean, maybe 10, 15 bucks worth of tools, maybe 20 at the most. So I don't need to worry about it getting stolen. I can just leave that in my truck, and then when I'm out geocaching, if I need something, or if I'm going on a long run or one that I know is a higher difficulty rating, just grab up my bag, sling it over my shoulder, and I call it a day. I'm out geocaching. It's all gathered right there. Anyway, that's pretty much what it is that I take. Sometimes, depending on what it is I'm doing, I might toss in a specialized tool if I know that the cache needs a specialized tool to be grabbed. But this is my basic setup for the most part. Anyway, if you guys have anything else that you take, anything that you want to add to this list, anything that you might recommend to this list, let me know. Let me know, because I have no problem. I got tons of room in that bag. I would love to add more stuff. I mean, who doesn't like more stuff? So anyway, that's me. I'm out. I'm going to go and hit some geocaches. I hope you guys stay safe and enjoy.